All righty. Hey there, Laker fans. Welcome to another episode of Lakers Detailed. I am your host, Vinay, with our host, my co-host, as well as on-site Lakers reporter, Raj, and a very special guest, Eddie, also known as Bansky. Most of you folks know him as Bansky on X. Formerly of Run It Back, formerly of the Etcetras with Kevin Durant. Most of you folks know him as the guy who's always next to Kevin Durant, or the guy that you guys like to get mad at when you're really mad at Kevin Durant for something else. But also runs an excellent playback room that covers Suns games and basketball games. And I know you've been doing the WWE stuff too as well. Our friend of the pod, Eddie Gonzalez of No Narratives on playback. Welcome to the show, Eddie. Folks, please make sure if you don't follow him already, give him a follow on X. Go follow No Narratives on playback. Eddie's joining us today as our special guest to talk some Lakers basketball, as well as some other stuff. So, Eddie, welcome to have you here.
Thanks for having me, guys. Happy to
Yeah,
be here, man. Happy to be here.
yeah, appreciate it. Raj, you've been working the grind, doing the post games. Some excellent stuff that's come out that we're definitely going to be discussing today. But fellas, let's just jump right into it. Lakers go on a road trip. They go 2-2 on this road trip with a spectacular loss to the Chicago Bulls, which I don't think anybody expected to happen. But they end up winning a close one. Blow a lead against Memphis, end up having a close one. Have a very tight game against the Indiana Pacers, where Braun hits a game winner. This week, even though it was 7 days, felt like, I don't know, a month, because you
Yeah.
had the game winner, you had the Braun interview with Pat McAfee, you had the blown lead to the Bulls, and then you have the game last night with Memphis. There's a lot of different stuff to cover, but we'll cover the basketball stuff first because we want to get that stuff out of the way. The Lakers have continued to play small ball. Raj, I'll start with you. And the timeline is very upset because we are getting assaulted when we don't have Jackson Hayes on the floor. That's been a recurring theme. That seems to be the common theme for why we can't hold leads and we can't protect the paint to some degree. But whether Rui's playing or not playing, it looks like JJ's pretty insistent on playing that small ball. It's a feature. It's not something that we pick and choose. That's what we're going to do. Where are you at with like this experiment or this thing that JJ's doing?
It's funny because we're recording this after the Suns get absolutely demolished by the Houston Rockets. And I'm
Thanks.
watching, obviously, I'm not making I'm not making comparisons with the two teams, but it's just funny watching like KD play the 5 for that team because they also don't employ enough centers that their coaching staff trust. And I think the Lakers are kind of in a similar situation, not basketball wise, but just in terms of how they need their superstar to play center a lot of times. And their superstar is 40 and Kevin Durant's 36 or 35 or what he is. It just, those are tough positions to put them in. But I think that's why they've struggled defensively for sure. I would like the small ball to be a curveball that we throw, not a pitch that we have to throw every time, every night. But it looks like something that they're going to continue to run with. I wrote about the small ball and how you can be a little bit more effective with it. But you're right, Vinay. I think it's something that the coaching staff really likes. And I think our most used 5 going forward is going to be like the big 3 with, LeBron, Austin, Luka next to Dorian and Rui, which, I think that gives you some spacing. And I think they really like the offensive look, but I really worry about how that looks defensively. And I think you saw that on the road trip. I thought you saw that against Chicago, even with Rui not playing a lot of small units. My guy, Christian Coloco, who's been, a G League guy, just can't play for some reason as a big man. And Jackson Hayes is our only center, and he plays like 20 minutes a game. So that's something they're going to have to work out. But the Lakers get, a nice road win in Memphis. We'll see where Memphis goes now in terms of where their team's headed with the firing of their coach. But this is a big, week, coming up, starting with Houston tomorrow, like who got, again, a big win tonight. Yeah. And we'll see how they perform in that one on Monday.
Yeah, we tend to downsize in a way that seems to be like we play small ball, but our small ball has a bunch of big dudes on the floor, so you can play like 3 or 4 or 6, 8 guys. So it's very interesting to see that. Eddie, I know you guys on the Suns side, you guys have tried to do experiment, like the Suns have tried to experiment with those kind of lineups too as well. They'll play like Ryan Dunn, they'll play Kev, they'll play Royce, they'll play Booker, and then they'll usually play another, like I think Oso is the other guy that they'll typically play. Do you guys see the same thing? I know we're in different spaces. You guys are way farther down the standings, but philosophically, like I know there was a stretch where you guys kind of balanced out your lineups a little bit more. Brad was sitting, Tyus came off the bench or something like that, and you guys did see some change in the defense. Is that consistent with the small ball and how it affects you guys?
Yeah, and I think the one thing that Lakers have that the Suns don't is they have size outside of just Kevin. You're playing a small ball lineup, and everybody besides Kevin is 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", and then it's Kevin. You're essentially playing 4 guards in him, and it doesn't seem like it seems like you should be able to tread water with Kevin, but then you switch everything. So now Kevin's 30 feet away from the basket, so that takes 1-2 passes, and we're at the basket. Or if we put a shot up, we can pound the glass and get on the rebound against you. You saw today they played the small ball lineup, and it was against Steven Adams and Alfred Doom. A couple of nights ago, they did the same thing versus the Wolves. Is Rudy Gobert and it's Naz Reid out there, also out there with Julius Randle, and they're going small again. And it's like, I get kind of trying to counter and speed the other team up, and you win it on offense, I guess, but it doesn't. You lose so much on defense, it hurts. I think the thing for the Lakers is they still have some size to back that up, and they still have some rebounding. And Vinay, you and I talked quite a bit about Luka and LeBron kind of dedicated to rebounding, and I think some of it is to what they can turn it into on offense, and then they can kind of get the ball moving after that. They don't run a lot, but that's one way to get going quick. But at the end of the day, it just turns into what's on the back end. So if you're letting teams get into the paint and your center is LeBron, there's not much rim protection. Now there's, it's lobs over the top. We can actually challenge LeBron at the rim if we feel like it. And if everybody has to collapse an extra step further, that leads to open corner threes. That leads to 2 passes away, to a skip pass, to above the break 3. And so it's just tough to keep up with that unless you're like truly scorching on offense.
Yeah, and
I think we're seeing just kind of like the flip side of that in the recent games. I do wonder if it's JJ experimenting for the playoffs. I do wonder if it's JJ eyeballing the matchups they'll see, and then like, we don't want to see Memphis with 2 centers on the court. How do we get them out of that?
Yeah.
Again, like you mentioned, Jax only plays like 20 minutes a game, and I don't expect a huge uptick in the playoffs. That's asking a lot. So, they're one front court injury away, knock on wood, from a real serious issue in terms of that in rotation and finding a 7th, 8th guy to play. It's funny. They look like a team who just traded for a completely new centerpiece in the middle of the season because they have great games where they look like they got it. Yeah. And other games where they look a little disjointed. I think it shows up more on defense. And I'm sorry, I'm going to be the guy. A lot of it rests on LeBron. Just being kind of old and like lazy.
Yeah.
And if there's still that other gear in the playoffs, cool. But, I think that's a wait and see thing every year now because that's where he's at. I mean, it's fine. It's year 29 or whatever it is. And he gets to rest a little bit. But the Rockets won't care about that in the playoffs. The Grizzlies won't care about that. The Nuggets for sure won't care about that. So hopefully there's that other gear. Because a lot of times the breakdowns you see are with him, and then like the Bulls game is just huge. Like I joked in a group chat, like, was that the worst stretch of LeBron's life? Like, has he ever had a worse 20 seconds of basketball?
Yeah.
But it's a lot of it rests on his shoulders, unfortunately. But heavy is the crown, as he would say.
Yeah, so one thing that Raj and I have always talked about is even when we had Anthony Davis and we tried to run the 4-5 with Bron and Anthony Davis, like. One of the things that we used to consistently say is like we've known this even before Luka that our transition defense has been horrendous since we've had those lineups, and a lot of people chalk it up to Anthony Davis complained to the refs, and now we have that kind of we have that thing happening with Luka a little bit where they'll miss layups, Bron or Anthony Davis would. Now Luka or Bron they'll complain to the refs, they don't run back on defense. But one of the things that was something that we would always discuss is a lot of times Bron was like the second biggest guy on the floor for us. So when he doesn't run back for whatever reason, or if he doesn't get back in time for whatever reason, like even our defensive rebounding suffers bad. Like if a team even tries to go early in the offense. And I feel like we run into that situation a little bit now here where we've got a guy like Luka, who's a tremendous offensive player, but also like he might take some of that workload. We're going to talk about Austin too, and just kind of his ascension during this, but like we're kind of relying LeBron on LeBron to be better, like be more defensive oriented a little bit more now with Anthony Davis gone. So like he might still be the second biggest guy on the floor most of the time. Sometimes he might be the biggest guy or tied to be the biggest guy, depending on if Rui's on the floor and Jackson's off the floor. So it's just like we can't really have situations like LeBron can have an off night offensively right now, and we can win games because we have two other guys that can probably score 30 if they get the shots. But we can't have games where Bron is like, I don't know if I really feel like rebounding, or I don't know if I really feel like playing defense. And I know it's unfair to expect that from a guy at his age, but that's also the situation we're just in right now. We can't really get around it. I'm with you guys both. And Eddie, I think you bring up a really good point. I don't know if this is experimentation. I think Rod, you mentioned it too a little bit, like, or if this is like, hey, we're going to run these lineups, and if we lose regular season games, oh well, but we have to be ready in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Rod, what do you think? Do you think it's like we are field testing, beta testing is what I like to say. Are we beta testing these lineups for the playoffs?
I think this is the first time, and this got mentioned when we hired JJ Vance, but this is the first time where we have a coach's thoughts like on wax in terms of, and it's more than it's ever had. JJ's been very clear on his pods about how much he loves spacing, and he has a whole pod actually dedicated to Dorian Finney-Smith at the 5. Like that's something that he talked about before, he even got to the Lakers, and that's something that we're running. Like Dorian's been a center. It switches off him and LeBron and Rui all kind of switch between who's the offensive center. That's really that matters a little bit less. But on the defensive end, they really put him in those positions. I think that's something we're going to keep. I have a question for Vans because I'm not comparing the Suns and the Lakers. You mentioned the small guards that they surround Kevin with and how detrimental. You talked about how much you switch, and I think point of attack POA has kind of lost its meaning because of how much teams switch nowadays, right?
About that today.
yeah,
like everyone's like, oh, well, we need a point of attack guard. It's like if one screen gets him off your guy, then really, like, what does point of attack really mean there? So you're as good as your weakest link on the defensive end. And you mentioned LeBron has the tendency to sometimes not be as engaged on the defensive end, but the Lakers also start two guards and Luka Doncic, who is another guy that can really take plays off on the defensive end, and Austin Reaves, who's improved as a defensive player. But again, if that's your best kind of guard that you put on other teams' best perimeter scorer, I think you're in trouble a little bit. What do you think about? I guess that are you concerned about that backcourt in terms of that being detrimental on the defensive end for them, watching what the Suns do. And then now the Lakers switching, you talked about it, switching your whole organization from being built around AD's defense to now Luka Doncic as, the primary guy on that end.
Yeah, I think it's completely valid concern to wonder, I would start with Austin. If nothing else, because he's smaller and he's just a little bit slower on his feet than the other two guys than Luka. We've seen Luka kind of make up a lot of that with being 6'8", 6'9", whatever it is he is, and just being a big body. Whereas Austin, I remember, did the Suns play the Lakers the first game of the season? Whatever game it was, but it was like, oh, that's the guy everybody's picking on late in the game. It's going to be Austin. And that remains now. And again, it's the worser of five evils. It's not even that he's so bad, it's that he's just not as good as everybody else. So, yeah, like you don't want Dorian necessarily on your ball handler, or you don't want Rui, but that's a screen away, like you mentioned. So I think teams will be fine with playing against that small lineup. And there's ways to hide them. You put them in the corner, you pick the worst guy, Certain teams like to screen certain guys. I was going to mention it too about the Lakers. Like LeBron likes to screen big to small. He likes to pick that mismatch. Whereas Luka likes to go, small to big, so to speak, and pick on centers. And it's kind of biting them in the ass, though, because going off on a tangent here, but, Phil Jackson used to hate corner threes, right? Because he felt like you wouldn't get back in time in transition. Well, LeBron and Luka are perfect examples of this. And when they have the ball and then they get that mismatch, and if they shoot, especially Luka shoots a step back three, the center's leaking out. Okay, damn. Now we're helping somebody on the other side of the court is going to get back, beat that center down the court. Yeah. And I've watched it time and time again. Look, you don't lose games on this very detail, but guys beating them up the court, and it's now you're not playing a center. So now Vooch is down the court with a layup, or we just start cross match terribly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And we continue down and go from there. So all of these little details matter, I think, even more so than like, oh, we can pick on Austin Reaves for 5 minutes at a time. they'll work their way around it. The defense will be fine in the half court. I think it's transition, as mentioned. I think it's a lot of small little details like that. And then again, the point of attack thing, everybody gets beat. Everybody gets beat and everybody gets screened at this point. So it's like, all right, what happens after I turn the corner and I'm at the nail, I'm in the paint, I'm this and that. That's where that defense didn't hurt you, because LeBron, for all he is in transition and all that stuff, he's not a straight ahead rim protector at this point in his career. And so we're all having to collapse again, an extra step more, extra step here. It's on them to have communication from there. It's on them to like really cover those holes. I think they'll be fine.
Yeah.
Again, I do worry that, they're just one slip up away. It's matchups for me when I look at the Lakers, because if they see the Nuggets, I'm a little worried. If they see the Grizzlies, I feel a lot better. I feel a lot better than that. If they see the Warriors, that's a series I want to see, and I really like that matchup for the Lakers. So it'd be interesting to see.
Yeah,
I think one thing is I do like that they've had some pretty decent game plans, at least on the offensive end, for a lot of the teams that they played against, because they have a really good record against the West. I think they also, and we haven't really played OKC very much yet, so we'll find out if OKC's still playing their guys that late into the season. It'll be interesting to see what they do. But you guys brought up a good point. I think in the playoffs, like, the teams are going to find ways to score, whether it's picking out a specific player, playing faster. Like, it's just going to be, for sure, the Achilles heel, I would say, for the Lakers is still that early transition offense, or the early offense, when teams try to go early and they're not wasting time. They did that to Luka for 2 straight plays. Again, in the Indiana game, they spread the floor out, went straight 5 out, and I think Nemhard, and I forget who the other guy was, like, they went early to attack Luka. Like, they just didn't wait. They didn't let the Lakers set up any coverages on the backside. Late game, when that happened, the Chicago game, same thing. Like, they're advancing the ball. If it's a 1-on-3, Kobe White's going to take the 3. Like, that's just the goal, to shoot it before the Lakers can get back on defense. Ben, the point that you made up about the corner 3, the start of the Orlando Magic game that we played on the road, the very first possession of the game, Paolo is on Braun. Braun is in the corner, top right hand side corner. I think Luka misses a contested 3, or somebody misses a contested shot. Paolo gets a rebound, runs down the floor because Braun is too slow coming from the corner, because that's his matchup. Paolo gets Austin Reaves and just goes right by him, like right through him for a transition layup to start the game. So, like, I think you guys are both right. Like, some stuff just won't matter just because of the way the game is offensively when it comes to switching and POA and stuff like that, and how much teams screen. But I also agree that, like, the small details can make the difference in a 5-point win, 6-point win. Some of those small possessions can make a huge difference. I think it'll be interesting to see if JJ continues doing this. Like, he really is trying to avoid playing any other centers outside of Jackson. And I think it's maybe because he just thinks that he's playing matchups. He's just like, you know what? Most of the teams that we play aren't going to play like a second big center. At some point, they're going to go small, and we need to be prepared for it. But as all this stuff has happened, and it's not just during this stretch since Braun has come back, it's also been throughout the course of the season. Austin Reaves has continued to traject in a great manner. Since Anthony Davis has been traded, Austin Reaves has continued. Actually, even before AD got traded, D'Lo getting moved to the bench and Max Christie and Austin becoming the starters. Austin started getting more volume. People started opening their eyes. They're like, yo, this guy's a guy. Bands already knows about this because we've talked about Austin extensively on his playback. Like, we think Austin is a really, really great player. And then since the Luka trade, Austin's been fantastic. And then with Braun being out, Austin's continued to be fantastic. And now with Braun working his way back, we're seeing that too as well. Is this like the ceiling? Do you guys think this is the ceiling for Austin? Is this like the most realized version that we're going to get out of him? Roger, I'll go to you first.
Well, I'm interested to hear what Vance thinks, because obviously I feel like I'm a little biased. I'm super high on Austin, and he's averaging Vance like 27 a game, I think, in March. And I'm just wondering, how real is that to you? Like, the scoring looks real, at least when I'm watching. The playmaking has taken a jump that I didn't even expect. As high I was on Austin, his playmaking has taken a jump where he's getting to 8-9 assists pretty consistently. And this is with Luka Doncic and LeBron James back. To you, is Austin Reaves a 27 and like 8 guy? Like I just obviously I'm asking that a little bit, jokingly. I don't think he's that, but like the level that he's shown, I think in my opinion, he's past the role player, like that tier, and whatever tiers after that, I'm not 100% sure, but I think he's at least past the role player. But I'm interested what you think of Austin's.
Eddie, before you answer it, I want to preface this. I want to add just a little bit more context to this. In the chat that we're in, with a lot of different types of Laker fans.
Yes,
there has been a tweet that has been shared about what Kyrie Irving was averaging for the Nets when he played next to
it's
James
pretty close.
It was very, very close. So we're not, when we ask that question, we're not saying it because we're just saying statistically he's doing what Kyrie was doing during that era. So obviously Kyrie is first overall pick. We're not comparing those two together, but statistically you're getting a really good impact out of him. So that's why we're asking that question, because I feel like we're at some point we're gonna, like, somebody's going to push that angle of like, yo, this guy's pretty good. So
it's gonna come out soon. Yeah,
go for it. I'll let you have it.
Vinay, when you were on stream with me on Playback a few days back, I had told you, like, I talked to a few guys about Austin throughout the season, different points of the season, and I forget what the game was in December. I think the Suns beat the Lakers. I can't remember exactly what it was, but we ended up having a long conversation about, like, yo, Austin got better. Like, he's just working the pick and roll better and kind of like elevates their team. And I think AD may have got hurt right after that or something. I can't remember exactly, but Kevin was really impressed. I was like, damn, maybe let me watch some more Austin. And I feel the same way now as the season went on. Like, the playmaking is a little bit of a loop for me. I also think that's by nature of just who he's playing with. And, the fact that the defenses have to deal with those guys in the ways they do. Statistically, what his ceiling is he an all-star? I'm seeing that question get asked a lot, and he plays in a conference with a ton of guards, like a ton of guys. He's good. He's not going to be an all-star over Shea and Steph and all these other guys next year, but is he on the fringe? Is he no, I think we're looking at a 20-point score in this league, which used to mean more than it does at this moment, but it still means a lot. I think we're looking at, I was shocked the other night how many rebounds he had. What game was it? The Bulls game? Or no,
against Memphis. Yeah, he had like
8 Memphis. That's what it was. I was like, damn, he got how many rebounds? And he's a bigger dude than I think people realize. He's like a legit 6'5". But no, I think, look, on a team like this with all of the talent he has around him and the talent that fits him as well, I'm not trying to give all the credit to LeBron, like, for nurturing him or whatever, but there's a lot to be learned in playing a similar game. And now he got Luka, who I think is the best at playing that. They call it heliocentric, but really snake the screen game that he plays. And he's just picked up on little nicks and knacks of the game, I guess. His ceiling could be 25 points a game. I mean, I think we've seen lesser players kind of get that. I don't want to see him on a worse team. This is one thing I kind of hate, where we're like, yo, how would he look if he had his own team? I want to see him on the best team possible, and then whatever he does with that. I don't want to see him like on the Hornets, scratching and clawing for 25 wins. I don't know that he's an all-star talent, but look, if they come out like gangbusters next year and they're a 60-win team and they're the 1 seed, crazier things that happen. The game is at home. Why not? But look, this is I tweeted today. This is what securing the bag looks like. Like, this is putting a lot of pressure on teams.
Good way of putting it. Yeah.
I'm gonna go Bill Simmons. Like, I can't believe another team didn't make them do more for him last year. Like, it was kind of shocking. And, they just got to tip the hat. But I think you got to lock him up when it's time. When his next deal comes up, you got to lock him up big time and reward him for what he's done. And credit to JJ. He's got dudes on his team playing the best basketball of their lives, and Austin's probably the chief example. So, maybe his ceiling's like 24, 6-6, but that's a really high-level player. So, you won in that sense.
That's an undrafted player. And the only thing that I'll add, Bands, and this, the jump from 20 to 25 or 27, whatever it is really, can you hit a 3-ball off the bounce, or like, can you consistently make volume threes? And I think that's where his game has jumped. I remember, like, his first season, we had to like beg him to take threes. And like last night against Memphis, he hit 5 of them, and he's like consistently getting like 8, 9 3-point attempts. And that's obviously a function of who he plays with too. But I think
confidence from his team as well, and him from his coach. I guess the name I would mention, and maybe this is the tier of player he is, and I see him as, is Jamal Murray. Like Jamal Murray probably
Interesting.
could make an All-Star game, and he's on probably the perfect situation for himself to play next to Jokic.
Yeah.
But if you had asked us 2 years ago when they win the title, is he a Jamal Murray level player? We probably be like, no, calm down. But now I think he is about that level player. And Jamal's been great second half of the season, by the way, for anybody who's watched the Nuggets. So I mean it as a compliment. That's not to lower him less than Kyrie, but it is to say, like, I think he's a key cog on what can be a really good team.
Yeah, I think the I always jokingly call it the complexion comparison, but I think the complexion comparison that Austin always gets is Tyler Hero. Like, can he be as good, or is he effective as Tyler Hero? And I've argued that he does some things better than Tyler does. Tyler's a great off the dribble scorer. Like he can do a lot with the ball in his hand. I think Tyler's a better athlete also than Austin is, but Austin does that crafty stuff that catches people off guard. It's a little more unorthodox. But yeah, it's been very interesting to see it. We always make this argument too as well that right now we have him at 12 million. So I think there's a little bit of it's the stars in this, people who have the Honda Civics and put the stars in the ceilings of their car. Not to say that Austin Reaves is a Honda Civic, but because his contract is so nice, it also that's a big part in the back of your mind as to about his ability, even if you separate it from the basketball. I think if Austin was a $30 million player, which is probably the tier of salary that he should be able to command for what he's doing right now, I think now all of a sudden you're not comparing Austin to, other guys that are role players in their situations. If he's making $30 million a year, now you're comparing him to the Tyler Heroes, you're comparing him to the Jamal Murrays and those sort of guys. And I think that not only raises his profile as a player, hey, I belong in this tier, but it also changes the way you evaluate him. Now maybe you are picking on his defense a little bit more, and you're like, hey, he's not really that great of a defender, that sort of thing. But I think regardless, it's been a boon for the Lakers, Raj. I think the fact that Austin, we have these two guys, and I know Bron and Luka have been in and out of the lineup, but we have these two guys who are we've said it all the time on this bench, all Galaxy creators. These are all Galaxy ball handlers, all Galaxy creators, and LeBron and Luka, and Austin finding a way to help the team out, not get in the way, not pout if he doesn't get a lot of shots in a certain game, and continually find ways. The Memphis game, he fronted a post against Jaren Jackson Jr. for a steal. He's fighting through Ja Morant to get offensive rebounds for his team. He's putting He's making Ja have to commit to a screen and then slipping screens for end game floaters and stuff like that. So Austin's I think he's just a winning basketball player. I think that's the way you put it.
The Bulls game, they went down to the wire with LeBron and Luka are watching. He had an incredible shot. It should have been a game winner.
Yeah.
And it was obviously wasn't, but that's where the team is valuing him at the moment. So it's interesting. And again, I think you make a great point about the salary. I had that conversation about OG over the summer.
Yeah, good example.
Now that you're the highest paid guy on this team, we're going to look at you a different way. I don't think it's necessarily come true just because the nature of what the Knicks do and how they play, and then they end up getting cat. But it is interesting, and there's a different level of expectation. What I wonder is when you go even further down the line, is he going to be a true second option, second fiddle to Luka when LeBron retires? If and when, who the hell knows when at this point. But that's kind of what I'm thinking about too as we chart him forward because of how young he is. But man, this is, you got to tip your hat at what he's done this season. He looks like he's just getting better even still.
Yeah, Raj, it's we continue to see him ascend, and we see him, one of the things I think we've mentioned it many times, his agent sees stuff on Twitter, and one of the things that his agents openly tweeted on Twitter, that Austin knows when to step up and he knows when to step back, and he knows how to fit himself in. And I think that's a great thing to say about a player just in general, that is a guy who's not only willing to make winning plays, he's also not trying to chase something. He's not trying to chase that contract. He's just ready for it when that situation comes up. So that's great. It's been wonderful to see that. But there's a little issue here because, as you know, Laker fans, we typically find ways, and I credit ESPN for this because they find ways to gaslight us into being in this mode, but we find ways to be unhappy about certain things. And when I say Laker fans, this means all Laker fans. That means the guys who were here before and the guys that are here now. So I'm talking about the Bron fans. I'm talking about the Luka fans. I'm talking about the Austin specific fans, the JJ Muse accounts, whoever. We find ways to be unhappy. And the current thing that's making us all unhappy and argue about is usage rates. All week long, usage rates. Who's the first option? Who's the second option? Who should get the ball at the end of the games? Who should not get the ball at the end of the games? Should we run the offense through these two guys and make the other guy stand around and be a glorified Draymond Green? Like there's a lot of different stuff that's being shared about it. And I think there is some merit to some of the conversation that's happening, but usage rate is usually the metric that people throw out there. I know all three of us care about analytics, know the value of analytics when it comes to contextualizing stuff, but sometimes people use those analytics as sort of gospel. I'll just use that word as gospel. And sometimes and we know in basketball, Eddie, you know very well because you've had conversations with Kev about the value of analytics and what matters, what doesn't matter. That's been a thing that's been worrying about. And so right now there's a conversation about how much Luka is getting the ball and how much he should get the ball and who that ball should go to. That's one part of it. The second part of it is should Austin get the ball more than Bron or should he get the ball less than Bron? So that's another. I'm not going to ask you to split those conversations up. I just want to ask you about. I'll go with you first, Roger. Like I want to ask you about this concept of usage rates and whether we have to actually even balance those things out to any sort of percentages, or do we just let them play and figure it out?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are trying to 2K it, where you just, let's go put this guy in the corner for X amount of possessions, put this guy in the corner for X amount of possessions, and then give him the ball for, amount of possessions. And I just don't think basketball works that way. And the conversations I've had, fans with people, and they're like, yeah, Austin's got to just step all the way back to what he was in 2023, where he was just the off-ball guy, wait for the ball. And I'm like, we're so past that stage. Like that, in my opinion, I think we're totally past the point where Luka and LeBron are going to control the ball every possession. And you mentioned the Bulls game. He had 2 game winners, man's taken away because Josh Giddey hit the half-court shot. But before then, he had 2 game-winning shots that should have ended the game.
The D-cell bank shot on Vooch, that was crazy.
Yeah,
but you keep going. I mean,
no, and that's a play they go to. Like that was on Christmas when they beat the Warriors. Yep. Same exact play. The fake the DHO. The keeper action. And he got a little bank shot. So yeah, I think it's going to be out of the flow of the game, and whichever player has the correct, has the best matchup to attack. The question I want to kind of frame this around, because the newest, we accept all, but the Luka fans have come in and have entered the chat, as the kids say, into the conversation. And in that Chicago game, Luka's in the corner, man. He got 2 cracks at attacking Vucevic. He took step back threes and a step back mid range, did not go in. And so the following 2 possessions, the ball was in Austin Reaves' hands.
Yep.
And the question that surrounds, and I believe that this is a situation that can happen in the playoffs, but people tell me I'm wrong. Like, no, in the playoffs, Luka's going to have the ball for sure, 100%. And I'm questioning that theory because I feel like the way the team has been running, our go-to action, even when Anthony Davis was here, was a LeBron Austin screen, and it can be inverted whichever way they want to run it, whoever matchup they has. My question to you, Vance, is, am I right that this is something that can come up again where the ball can be in any of those 3 hands? Or do you think there will be a little bit more structured where Luka's going to be, you kind of live and die by Luka Doncic because that's the guy you're handing your franchise over? Or is that even the wrong way to talk about this at all? Or this is just a flow game and whoever's playing well gets the basketball there?
Yeah, I think the cop-out answer is also the true answer, where it's just a flow thing. Those guys are going to kind of feel it on the court. And you got Luka, who his ceiling is the best player in the world, just took a team to the finals. You got LeBron, who is LeBron, who at any time, at any point, any game, could just call their own number and say, yo, here we go. I don't know that AR has that built up, even on this team where they really love him. So, I got this thing with the Suns where I tell people all the time, Devin Booker is doing what he wants. He gets to do what he wants out there. He's Devin Booker. It's fine. So if they want to call their number, they can. I do think people will end up being shocked at how often, when the number is dialed up, it will be Austin late in games, because one, it's just a matchup thing. And it's just like, we're just not seeing your primary defender. Let's put him in the corner too. along with Luka. And two, I think they trust him. And sometimes that's in the flow of the game. One of the things I did kind of right after the trade is I just start asking around, both around the Lakers and just around the league, like, how are they going to sort this out? Do you literally have a meeting about this? And it's LeBron, Luka, and Austin saying, okay, here's what we're thinking. Or, you talk about this with JJ, you run more set plays. And everybody kind of had the same answer. It was like, man, they got to fill it out on the court. And the thing is, LeBron and Luka are so smart. They play with Kyrie, which is an example a lot of people made too. It's like they kind of know what the hot hand is. And it goes the other way. When Luka has 18 and a quarter, we know where the ball is going, and we got to let him rock and do what he's doing. So they know when Austin's the hot hand. They know when he has the right matchup. They know when it's this and that. I mean, again, it happened at the end of that Bulls game. It's like, or what was the game? The Grizzlies game. When LeBron knew we needed free throws to finish this game, AR. Like, you're closing this out. You're the 90% free throws you're doing this team. So I think those guys are smart enough to know when, but I do think a lot of times it's going to come down to our matchup. And like, we just feel better about the fact that Mike Conley is stuck on Austin right now and not Jaden McDaniels or Anthony Edwards. Like, sometimes it's that simple. Like, what would we rather have out of these three? And it'll come down to a lot of that. So I think, look, Laker fans, Luka fans, beware. You're going to see the end of that Bulls game a lot, but you might just be in good hands, which is the good part of that. And then again, at the end of the day, we've watched LeBron do it to all kind of coaches. The play is me. It's fun. Just give me the ball, and we're gonna see that too.
Yeah. No, I think Raj, you bring up a great point, and I think Ben said, like, the detail that you're giving also is really excellent. They seem to play it. There's been a lot of conversation where it's just like people feel that the offense is like your turn, my turn, but I don't think it's like to some degree it might be like that, but I don't think it's just your turn, my turn in the sense where they're like, hey, basketball doesn't work that way. Like, oh, I got 2 possessions. Now you get 2 possessions. Now you get 2 possessions. It's one of those things where I think they go, hey, he's got the matchup, or maybe what JJ is telling him is, hey, there's a specific guy that we want to attack on the defense. So whoever he's on, give it to that guy so we can attack him. We've seen them do that with like even Rui at some point where if Rui had a specific matchup, they'd want Rui to go and attack that matchup. I think it's just a different feel now because you have 3 guys. Whereas Anthony Davis was offensively a very different player, whereas you kind of have 3 guys now in LeBron, Luka, and Austin, where all 3 can do it from the perimeter, depending on who the type of defender is. So it's a luxury, but it also kind of confuses the way that you look at it in some degree. I wanted to ask a question.
The one thing I want to add too is it's going to be more Luka and Austin than anything. And you mentioned LeBron as a third option. I don't think LeBron is a third option, so to speak.
Yeah.
He's just better off ball than the other 2. He's a better cutter. He can dive into space and post up out of just random actions. He's better kind of like late in clock than them. So there's just more value to him being somewhere else and being able to scramble at the end, or we drive and now here comes Bron cutting on the baseline, stuff like that. Whereas
he's the best. He's the best athlete of the 3 for sure.
Luka does the old James Harden. He'll sit at half court and grab his shorts and then just watch you do your stuff. And if I get the ball back, cool, I'll get to work. And that's just by nature of what those guys are as players. And it's not a slight, but I think because of that, we're going to see a lot of long stretches with LeBron in the corner, on the wing, either in the dunker spot, or even setting those screens for Austin, like you mentioned. And that's because he still has value on the other side that they just don't. Austin had a big corner 3 late in the game the other night, and I thought it was a play that we'll see a lot. And Roz, you're nodding because you know exactly what I'm talking about. LeBron's posting up. Luka LeBron 2-man game. When everybody collapsed, LeBron skip pass right to the corner, wide open 3. You can see a lot of that too. So that's the Luka 2-man game. LeBron and Austin is a screen and roll 2-man game, screen and pop. And so you just get these variances of them. But I think it utilizes all of their best talents. And unfortunately, that means LeBron's gonna be more complimentary than his stand group may like. But that's, look, he's 42. He's 40. He's in year 22. He's an old guy. It's fine.
Me and Vinay have like a petition to remove the word option Eddie from like the conversations, because I think that's gotten pushed out. The only thing I'll add on to that, Vinay and Vance, I feel like LeBron has to play the big man role, and like that has a connotation of lowering his ask or whatever. But I think in those lines where we played a lot of small ball, and I'm comparing this to the Nets team, right, where they also would go small, I feel like Kevin would have to kind of do a lot of big man things, and he did. He was an awesome rim protector for that team, and as he was used a lot as a screener as well. And I feel like LeBron has the most lineup versatility where he can be the forward, the center, and the point guard. But on this team, I think he has to do big man things. Like we don't play a conventional big for a lot of minutes. We play majority of the time we're playing small. Someone has to fill those roles, and Rui and DFS just aren't as dynamic as screeners as LeBron is. So he kind of has to fill that. And that doesn't mean he's worse than Austin or Luka on ball. To your point, I think it puts all three of their talents best together when he's the one kind of being the bridge.
And unfortunately for LeBron, part of big man things is playing 2.9 on defense and Xing out to a weak side corner, which isn't always gonna happen with that dude.
No.
But
there's a perception projection thing from the individual stand bases where they're like, oh my God, he's not the one directing the offense or dribbling the most on the possession, so he's like a lesser player than the other guy. And I keep telling like the Luka fans, I keep telling the Bron fans, like, just because Bron is doing it on this possession doesn't mean Luka can't do it or is unable to do it. Maybe Luka just needs a break because he did it, all of the third quarter. And it's the same thing with Austin, and it's the same thing for all three of them. I will add,
like, that's a great point.
And I will add, like, the reason why Bron fits better in those situations, he's also the best athlete of the three. Like he is the most explosive finisher of the group. He is a guy who'll finish above the rim, can finish around. So that there is a part of that. Like you can run the inverted pick and roll that they ran in the Memphis game, but majority of the time Austin is going to attempt that with a floater. If that's Bron, maybe Bron goes for a dunk. Maybe Bron draws a foul. He's not doing it the way that he's doing it. So I think that's a part of it too, as well, in addition to the big thing. I want to ask this question, Ben, to you, because you've seen, we're not going to talk about the Suns' big three. There's a lot of not good feelings about that. So we're not going to talk about that. But the Nets' big three. You and I talked about this on your stream. And I said, in one of the things I think we kind of both pointed out is when James arrived, Kyrie immediately said, that's the point guard of the team. Like, he's the guy who's handling the ball. He's distributing, blah, blah, that sort of thing. We know who Kev is. We know Kev, all world scorer. He can fit in with literally anybody. And it was very clear that, like, James was running the show. But once it got to the situational stuff at the end game, do we need an ISO bucket? Do we need to, run a screen to set up Kev or whatever it's supposed to be? James will facilitate or whatever it's supposed to be. But there was very clear structure, like as to who was like the main guy doing certain stuff. And the one thing, I think the distinction that you and I kind of talked about when we talked about, we don't necessarily call this the Lakers big three. It's becoming that. But when we talk about the Lakers trio, you have three guys that can all do the same thing. So it's not that you have a guy like Austin isn't just a Kyrie-esque scorer. Kyrie, you can give him the ball 30 times. He's giving you 50. Like he's going to score 50 one way or another, but you might not get the 7, 8, 9 assists. Austin will try to do that. Austin may get, 5, 6 assists. You know who LeBron is. You know who Luka is. They do that stuff. I think there's a part of this that, as the Lakers have figured this stuff, I think they've only played about 14 games together so far, like with all of them healthy. There's a part of this where they're trying to figure out how each person fits in and get used to it. Like we see the synergy with Bron and Austin, but Luka and Austin are still kind of trying to figure each other out. And Luka and Bron are certainly still trying to figure each other out as they go through this. Is it fair to say they haven't figured things out, like with how they're supposed to be working with each other because they have so much overlap in skills? Whichever one of you wants to answer that first.
Yeah, I mean, I think nor should you expect them to have figured it out this soon. I think what kind of going back to the conversation we just had, a lot of times they're just going to revert to what they do and know best.
Yeah.
For Luka, it's going to be picking, like, I need a switch on the center and I'm going to attack a center. You know what I mean? And for LeBron, it's going to be either a post up on that left side, or it's going to be bring Austin. We're going to run big, small. I'm going to try to get that switch. And that's, at the end of the day, it's fine. We're talking about two of the greatest of all time. It's how do we blend that? How do we make sure everybody gets their stuff? How do we not be too redundant? We talked about it, Vinay, a little bit. Like the thing about Luka and LeBron is they finish different. They finish their plays different. LeBron is more likely to go straight all the way to the rim than Luka is. Luka is more likely to actually step backwards, go the other direction. And then there's a lot of stuff in between. LeBron will utilize the mid-range when he feels like it. Now, and at this point in his career, he's actually utilizing step back three too, but that wouldn't call that his go-to, despite what the meme says. Whereas again, Luka's a little more specified. He's driving for a lob. Like he wants to throw a lob to the center.
Yeah.
That's why he banged the table and said, "Give me a center." If he gets in that paint, he might do a floater, but he's really looking for a lob or he's looking to the corner. And then Austin's kind of like this weird amalgamation of both, where now we're seeing a little bit of the playmaking, but he loves the mid range. He loves to snake the screen and work in that little area, and even kind of dive out of the paint to create more space on his jumper. He's unique in that sense. So there's overlap in how they attack, but there's uniqueness in how they finish. The thing I keep coming back to is the same thing. It's something JT had mentioned to me. It's like they're all such great and willing passers that they'll find ways to make it work. And I think that keeps their teammates involved and keeps the three of them involved as well. So are they still figuring it out? Yeah, but they'll probably always be tinkering with it because of the minds they have over there with LeBron, with Luka, with JJ, with everybody on that staff. Like they'll probably never feel like they're complete with it. But I think they like what they have now as a good foundation.
Yeah. My only concern, and Luka's had halves, Vans, where like his first and second half splits are insane. Like he's averaging like 22 in the first half, then it like tinkers off to like 8-9 points in the second. I think part of this too is it's just tiring to attack a big man switch like that, and I think that just takes his legs out. Obviously, the Mavs traded him because of his conditioning, but in any case, I think his conditioning still isn't at the point where it can be at max level. But there was this game, I think the home game against Chicago, he had 29 in the first half, and then in the second half, LeBron and Austin tried to get going, but they weren't really in any rhythm. So I think finding ways where it's not just watching Luka cook Vucevic for a half and then going, oh wait, now I need you guys to be involved, and they have like no rhythm going on the offensive end. That's my only like real concern so far with the three guys playing together. Their offensive rating is really bad right now. I think it's like 113 through the 14 games. I think the Nets trio only played 12. Am I right? 12 or 13, I think, in their entire
I think it ended up being 18 with playoff games.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Crazy.
Yeah. So they're gonna kick that out in a few games here. But yeah, I'm with you. I think they're still tinkering with it and will always be. And this is a trio that they all, Vinay, to your point, they all have games that are kind of similar. They all want to kind of do the same thing, attack from the same areas of the floor, which is why I think putting LeBron in the post or putting him as a screener balances the floor out. But yeah, just keeping that stagnation away where it's not just watching each of them cook in one-on-one. I think there is a ceiling to that level of offense that they can pass if they're able to kind of blend stuff together.
Yeah. So that brings me to like my final kind of basketball topic that I have that I wanted to discuss, which is this idea or this thing that's been happening in the fourth quarter since LeBron's been back. It's happened in 3 games in a row now. It's happened against Indiana, it's happened against Chicago, and it's happened against Memphis. I posted a video today, and Raj, we chatted about this beforehand,
yes.
So people don't know it unless they're actually watching this video. Like we had discussed what's actually happening in the fourth quarters with the Lakers, and we both kind of came to the conclusion on the observation since Bron has been back. Like LeBron has basically become this bridge in the fourth quarter to everybody else, especially to Luka and Austin, where the Lakers are giving it to Bron in the mid post. They'll do it at the free throw line, or they'll isolate one side of the floor and they'll give it to him in the post. And they're basically telling him, whatever you decide to do, we'll be ready for it. If that is you bringing it back out and you calling for Austin to come screen for you, if that's you attacking whoever that matchup is in the post, then that's what we'll roll with. Or if it's something as simple as, hey, I don't want to do this, I'm going to back this out. Luka, you go post up and I'm going to throw you the entry pass. We've seen different variations of this in all 3 games. We saw the pick and roll action, the 2-man game with him and Austin, both versions of it. In the Chicago game, Benz, you mentioned it a little bit earlier, towards the end of that game in that fourth quarter, LeBron throws entry passes to Luka in the post, but then he also has a possession, the one that you described, where he's on the left corner block in the post, swings it all the way across to the other corner to Austin, who's wide open because teams are cheating over to help on LeBron's post action. Austin makes a 3 in that situation. And then you get like the Indiana game where, Luka is the one who takes a floater at the end of the game, and Bron just crashes from the weak side, or he crashes from the corner and gets the tip in for the game-winning tip in. It's very clear that no matter who unless somebody really, really has it going, like if like Luka's on fire or Austin's on fire, like they're going to give it to Bron at the end of games. And it's going to be in that post area. And they're going to say, we'll work off of whatever you've got going on. If it's a 7-point game, a 10-point game, if it's a we need to maximize this possession, it feels like they're leaning towards, hey, we want to leverage Bron's IQ, and we know that he's going to make the right play, whatever that may end up being. And it's been largely successful. I would say the reason the Lakers are losing some of these games is because of their defense. It's not because of their offense, especially since Bron's been back. Is that fair? Do you guys see that? Is that fair to say, Raj? I'll ask you because you wrote that article about how they're using Bron. Is that fair? Is that the right way that we should be approaching this? Does it make sense?
I think it does, and I think it like connects to the conversation we were having about LeBron being the bridge for both of them and just being a player that connects the trio. Because I think it's tough to run. We talked about how much teams switch now. Just I think a Luka and Austin ball screen will likely be switched, and I think most teams will have a bigger player on LeBron, and it kind of opens up areas for them to attack. And LeBron's a post-up guy as well. You can throw him the ball in other areas of the floor where it's not just on the top of the key, and it doesn't kind of step on the toes of the other guards in terms of what they're doing or where they want to attack from. Again, I think LeBron will be able to choose to drive the car whenever he wants to. Like whenever he decides to get in the front seat, he'll be able to. It's just nice to have two other, race car drivers next to him that are able to kind of run it at least for the first 3.5 quarters. And I trust in fourth quarters, LeBron will still be making all the big decisions with the ball, shared with Luka and Austin. But I think this is the way they got to go through with it. And again, it looks a little weird. And I closed my piece with, this is just not what we've seen the last 2 decades. Like this is just, it's a different way to have to use LeBron James. But I do think this is the best way for the trio to work. And again, in big games, I just doubt that LeBron's going to cede full control, to anyone down the stretch. He's still going to be deciding everything and making sure things run as he sees it. But I think right now, this is the right way to do it for the trio. What do you think, Benz?
Yeah, I think that's the one maybe most unique look you get out of the 3 guys is the stuff that LeBron they call them horn sets or pistol. Mm-hmm. I actually just seen a tweet earlier where the Lakers are running the most 5 out in the league right now since the trade or something, and then like their 4 out is right after, but this is what's next, horns. Yeah, and it's like that because of LeBron. And I remember this was the conversation with Kevin Love in Cleveland. Oh, Kevin Love needs more elbow touches. No, he doesn't, because LeBron is way better at them than him. So he needs to sacrifice. Yeah. He got to get in line. Yeah. And there's so many things and variations you can do out of that, whether it's him sliding down to the block and now having a straight post up, whether it's him doing that and there's different motion around him, or handoffs to Luka, handoffs to Austin, or again, he can just go out, take a step back out, and then run his pick and roll stuff that he likes to run. So there's more variations there. The other thing too is like it's harder to double him there. Like we've seen that in playoffs many times where people are like, oh, we'll trap LeBron. Okay, fine. Then he'll go set up somewhere else, and you can't really double him on the block. He's too good at that. We've seen teams try zone. We've seen teams try these traps, and then like him solve them in a quarter, and it's like, oh, we can't. Now we're done with that for the rest of the series. And so it's just like if LeBron's on the left block, and you have to double him either from the other side of the block or from the man who just passed him the ball, that's way too easy. If you would double him from the other side of the court, it's going to take too long. He's going to see it, and that's a quick pass. So it's like LeBron is just capable of adjusting to that on the fly and has shown it so many times. And so I think we will see a lot of that. And what it also does too is he can get the ball on that side of the court, and Luka and Austin can set up on the other side of the court and get their own actions with a quick skip pass. So again, it like all sounds so simple, but you need a guy who can orchestrate it in that way. LeBron will get his touches, and he'll get them how he wants, and he'll get them how the team feels is best served. But a lot of times it's going to be that. And the other thing too is it conserves energy for him. Yeah. There's this old Channing Frye clip that I always think about. It's like he was explaining how LeBron was running point, but like setting the plays up for the Cavs, but then running amongst the plays. So again, he's coming down the court. They had no point guard. Okay, we're running this. We're running horns. Okay, I pass to the wing to JR, and now I got to go down to the block. Now I got to run a pin down. Hope they don't top lock, because they top lock got the switch out here anyway. Eventually get to my elbow touch. So he's now played 2 positions in 1 possession, and now has to finish running the play, whether it's score or distribute. That's all to say. It saves him a little bit more energy on there to be this guy on this offense now. So I do think it'll come down to a lot of that. And I think the matchups will dictate a lot of that. And then, once we get the defense scrambling under the basket, what those guys can do 30 feet away from the basket, it's crazy. So No, I think it's a great observation. I think we'll see it a lot more, and it's going to help LeBron conserve his energy, which is always great and always key for this team.
Yeah, so I think all of the different basketball conversations that we've had about just integrating these guys and just these guys, all three, Austin, Braun, and Luka, kind of integrating with each other has been. I hope folks who the folks that are watching this live or end up watching this later, like I hope you guys understand the theme, like of what we're trying to get to, which is like these guys are still learning to play with each other, but they're also doing really well as they're learning to play with each other. And it doesn't need to be like a first option, second option. This guy has to be the guy that initiates it, that sort of thing. They can sort of flow their way into figuring out, who the hot hand is and who the situation is supposed to be, who the play is supposed to be for. And I think that's something that's going to continue. I will say that I think there is a little bit of wild cardness with the Lakers where teams who are probably trying to scout the Lakers out in advance are looking at this and going, we actually don't know what they're going to run, in the sense like they could run this with Braun. They can run the same action with Braun, Luka, or Austin. And we might not, it might get disguised as us thinking something else altogether. So I think there is a little bit of that the Lakers do have in mind. Did you guys have any other basketball thoughts before I get to the fun segment that I wanted to have with you two on here?
I think that was good. The only guy we didn't really touch, and I'm just interested in this, we didn't really touch on Luka, very much. Just what have you seen? I guess his fit so far, man. He's starting to cook in terms of turn into Dallas Luka, but there's still some, I think he's still getting back into his conditioning. But this is an adjustment for him. I'm just from what you've seen, how close does he look like the Luka Doncic that can be, you mentioned, the best player in the world on a championship team?
Yeah, I mean, he's working himself back into shape. I think that much is clear. I think he's getting there. But there's nights and quarters and halves, like you mentioned, where he looks great. I think it's the biggest adjustment for him, even in terms of just like he quit cities. He used to play with LeBron. He used to do this and that. Austin Reaves knows what it is to play with two superstars. Yeah. LeBron James knows what it is to play with a superstar who is always going to have the ball a lot. It's the biggest adjustment for him. So I think you're seeing that with him. I think he's, we've all worked new jobs. It's like, how much can I throw my weight around here? Like, it's a lot of that. And you hear LeBron in these huddles telling him, like, be you. We don't care about none of that. Do you. And so there's a little bit of that. I think when the playoffs comes, he'll get back to being, I don't mean it in a bad way either, because I like Luka, but he'll get back to being selfish Luka a little more. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. That's a great thing. And I was doing this thing, and it's biased, don't get me wrong, but I was doing this conversation on playback. It was like, all right, who are the top 5 players in the league right now? And obviously we're talking Shea, we're talking Jokic, we're talking Giannis, we're talking Tatum. And I was like, yeah, it's Kevin. And the reason why it's Kevin is because Luka has been out so long, and we're kind of
right. Yeah.
But Luka's in that bunch. Like, he's typically a shoo-in for that bunch. Yeah. So, I think we're seeing it get closer and closer and closer to that. And we'll see him kind of assert his dominance, I think, soon enough. But yeah, it's got to be a little awkward for him. And, they got the big game coming up. I honestly think that big game, the return, will be kind of an ease off him as well, and kind of begin what he'll have going forward from there.
Yeah, I forgot there was a clip that came out, I think, like after like Luka's 3rd or 4th game, where he like looks at the bench and somebody caught the audio where he's like I've never been this open in my life, like since he's been playing in the league. And I forgot we were in the chat, we were looking up the stats. I think since Luka's joined the Lakers, 30% of his shot selection, or 27% of the shots he's taken, are open threes. Like, the threes that he's taking are considered open threes, which is like if your best players, a third of his shots are just open threes because there's no defender around them because they're occupied by something else altogether, that's got to be something good. So I think you're right. There is a little bit of an adjustment of, he used to be the guy who had it full 94 feet majority of the time, and now he's a guy where I can just stand around on the perimeter and I'll be wide open because teams are leaving me open, that sort of thing. So it'll be super interesting to say. I definitely want to shout out Arthur Johnson. His message, just reminiscing. Thank you for the $5 super chat. Just reminiscing, watching you trying to see if the Luka trade was real 2 months ago. That it was a very surreal moment. You were searching live for over 30 minutes. Pretty cool. Appreciate that, Arthur. We appreciate that super chat. Benz, you joined us that evening. I remember you messaged me. You're like, "Yo, what are y'all doing?" I was like, "Yeah, Jordan, come on up, bro." And I
Bro,
remember
I was like freaking out, like what?
Oh,
And
man.
I told you guys, like, I had to call Shams to make sure, like, are you being held hostage? Like, what's the deal?
Yeah.
And you know, Shams said he talked recently on actually JJ's old pod about he got a handful of phone calls that he actually answered because obviously his phone was going crazy. And a lot of them were ESPN folks, and so you know, I'm happy I was able to break through. But I was like worried about him, like, yo, if somebody gets Shams' account, like the NBA might be screwed.
Yeah.
But it was like,
everything gets pushed out. Yeah.
It's funny because I see like a different 3 people tweeting it every day, but I really sit there and go, man, the Lakers really just got Luka in the middle of the season. Like that really happened.
Yeah.
So it's cool seeing AD back on the court, and I'm happy for him. And he looks like his defensive self. He shot like 7 of 23 the other day in Chicago. But you know, it's a lot, man. It's I might not never be used to it and get over that night because that was crazy.
That's one of those, you know, like that you have like the Twitter history, like this night on Twitter, like the greatest nights on Twitter. Not the greatest nights for obviously not for Dallas fans, but like it's probably going to be like one of those nights where like, where were you when this happened? This sort of thing. So
for sure.
And I remember I told Raj, we were talking after the stream, and Raj was like, "Yeah, you know, we had a lot of people join the live stream." I was like, "Yeah, when I added bands, everything started lagging because we had too many people come over, and the whole platform was slowing down."
It's like we're so used to being like the Centils and then like the fake accounts.
Yeah. Right.
We all did the same. Like we clicked the tweet, we were like, "What?" We went to his profile, we refreshed his profile, like, is it fake? And like I'll never forget, like it said 27 seconds when I seen it. And then when I clicked it, then it's like now it's like 53 or whatever it is. And I'm just like, no way, dude.
He hasn't deleted it yet. Yeah.
So I text him at first. He didn't text right back. And so I was kind of like, you know, I don't know if that's good or bad if he doesn't text right back. So now I just called. And I wasn't expecting an answer. And he was just like, it's real. I got to go. I was like, oh, shit. They got Luka.
The funniest part is I think we said it on the stream. We were like, "No, this can't be real." And like the very next tweet was, "No, this is real."
Yeah.
Yeah. He confirmed it.
He had to break character for a tweet, let it go. I was like, man, this is crazy. But I mean, look, it's going to be one of those sliding door moments for the league for years. You know, Luka's going to play another decade plus at this level or at some high level. Let me not jinx him. And it's going to be like that. And then you look at what's going on with the Mavs, and like they have to reckon with that for a long, long, long time because there's not going to be another Luka walking in that door anytime soon.
I'm sure you've seen him live, right, Luka? You've seen Luka play. Watching him play live, fans, I again went, how did they trade this dude? Like, there's just a magical level of like you don't even have to know anything about basketball to understand when someone's great at something. Like they're just, you know.
I say it about LeBron because it's funny because LeBron is such an like an athletic marvel. And I've seen like every stage of LeBron. I've seen his first game. I've seen like prime Cavs LeBron, all that. And it's again, he's one of those players like Bill Simmons likes to say. He shrinks the court when he gets a fast break. It's like a dribble and it's over. But like later LeBron, there's such a control he has over the game, and Luka's the same thing. Like he can't help but he's the center of attention because the whole game plays at his pace. You know who's like that too is Jokic. And I hadn't seen Jokic ever until I seen him in Phoenix. And thankfully I was able to be pretty close. And it was just like, oh, he's not fat or unathletic. He's actually like really in shape and fast, but he just does he makes everybody play his game and dominates that. And that's how Luka it's pretty insane watching him. Cause it's like, I think on TV, and I think we get a little desensitized to it. It's like, oh, he's just using a screen. He's just putting guys on his hip and he's just going. But then you see kind of like all that he does to do that and then how he takes advantage of that. Another guy who's like that too, like if you've never seen Kyrie in person and kind of got how physical he is and like the way he's kind of like a running back. Like when he gets dribbling and he initiates contact with centers and stuff like that. Some of these guys you have to see in person to kind of like truly marvel at them. And look, I think Luka's like that.
Yeah. No, it's. I think me and Roger are always big advocates, just in general. Like for fans, if you ever get an opportunity, it doesn't matter who you're watching. You find the cheapest seats if you have to. Go watch as close as you possibly can. Go watch an NBA game to actually understand the difference between what you're watching on TV and you're screaming at people like, "Oh, why did you miss this guy on the backside?" It's like, bro, they're like, you can't see that angle from TV. You're seeing it from the television. Go watch it on the floor. Those passing windows are like this big. So it's just like some of those things. It's just, we always encourage people to watch it. So you also get a greater appreciation for how good some of these players really are when you watch them.
I've been fortunate enough to be courtside and to just be close.
Yeah,
and it's like, I think the size of the guys, but also like the slivers of space. Because it's like, it occurs to you in the middle of it, like, oh, this is the court I play on. But like everybody's way bigger and all the spaces are way smaller, and they still do stuff. Like it's pretty insane. So I'm with you. Go watch as many of these guys in person as you can. Like, again, I know some of these things will be expensive, but get as close as you can, see as much as you can, because it'll change your perception of what you're watching a lot of times.
Yeah. So awesome. That's an awesome way to advocate. Contrary to what we get from some of our national media folks, that's a great way to advocate for the game. But so I can't let you leave the pod. We can't end the pod without sort of addressing the elephant in the room, Eddie. We're not going to talk about the Suns. We're not going to talk about the inviting. We're not going to talk about Coach Bud. We don't have to do all that sort of stuff.
Okay.
We do have to talk, but we do have to talk about this game that everybody else is playing. And I would like the Lakers to also throw their hat in the ring when it comes to this game. And there's just been this conversation about Kev getting traded at the deadline. You've talked many times on your playback about how very close it was that KD was going to get traded to Miami. And then we know about the story about him nixing the trade or offering his feelings about getting traded to the Warriors and what the end result ended up being. And we're in this situation now where KD is still in Phoenix. There might be a situation where they reconcile. There might not be a situation they reconcile, depending on whatever percentages that people feel like, 50-50, 80-20. It is what it is. But in the situation that Kevin Durant does want to look for a change of scenery, I'm not opposed. I'm all for it. I think he should go where he wants to go. I think he's earned that equity as a player. If the situation's not going to work out in Phoenix and they've already tried to trade you and you're just like, you know what, I don't want to be somewhere where they're going to trade me, I'm going to go somewhere else. I totally understand that. I think that's fair. It's good for the organization to get something back for him. It's also good for him to be somewhere that he wants to be. I'll never say anything against that. I was okay, Eddie. I'll be very honest. I heard the Rockets. I heard Dallas. I heard the Warriors. I heard Memphis. I was like, yeah, you know what? It's cool. He could go to these teams. It just makes a lot of sense that he goes to these. I don't mind that he's in the Western Conference. I was cool with it. I didn't say anything. But then I heard a specific team get named. I heard, well, you know what? The Boston Celtics might be interested in going after Kevin Durant. And I was just like, hold on now. Now I have to.
I don't know where that started, man. I don't know where that started.
And I was just like, I know, on behalf of the Laker delegation, somebody has to intervene here and put our name in that. So what I wanted to do for this segment is I want to play a game. Not a game. I just play like this little scenario. And I wanted you to pretend to be Rich Kleiman. You're KD's agent. And I'm going to pitch you LA. And I'm going to tell you why I think KD should come to LA. Now, I should let everybody know, anybody who watches this stream, me and Raj have kind of had these discussions a little bit. Raj doesn't want Kev in LA. He doesn't want to interrupt anything that's going on here.
That's too strong. That's too strong. And I'll put my reasonings out after Vinay does his very rehearsed elevator pitch for Kevin Durant.
No, it has to be.
That I've heard many times.
Don't let Vinay fool you too. He might have a pipeline to Kevin Durant on Twitter. I don't know.
Absolutely. But
so I wanted to make my elevator pitch for Kevin, and you pretend to be his agent. So I'd love KD in LA. Getting the money for Phoenix, getting the picks to Phoenix to make it an appetizing play, it makes, like, that's not a problem for the Lakers. We've got the first rounders, we've got the young talent, we've got the expiring salaries, and if it's not expiring salaries, but it's productive players that are also expiring salaries that they could use later, we've got all that. We're not worried about what we have to send to you guys. And let's just say that the front office is cool. We'll try the 3-star model plus, Austin Reaves, whatever. So we'll take that risk for Kevin Durant. So really what I need to do is I need to convince you that Kev, I need you to sign an extension with us. Like I don't want to trade for you just for one season. I want you to like be here, like be here in LA. So my pitch is very straightforward. Kev, I know you love playing in LA. I know that you are out here in the summer. I know you work out here in the summer. I know you and your buddies work out here in the summer. So you're here already. So let's just keep it a buck. Like we know you're out here. Kev, I also know you're a single guy. Like you're not tied down to anybody as well. Like I know.
Does this help the pitch? Or?
He's taking deep. He's going.
Yeah, like it's all right. Like I get it. You're a celebrity. Everybody knows who you are. I've seen you practicing jump shots in the club. Like it's cool. You don't have to do that out here. We know who you are. You can come over here. Now here's the stuff that I know that really matters. Okay, Kev, you see me and Raj. You see we have this great rapport with Eddie here. The media is not going to turn on you, bro. Like I've seen that happen with the Nets. I've seen that happen with Phoenix. Look, I know we got LeBron here. I know we got the Luka fans here, but the Lakers are a franchise that knows how to take care of their stars. Like you have people in Dallas saying, well, Luka was out of shape, so they had to trade him. Well, we had a guy named Shaquille O'Neal who used to routinely come into the regular season out of shape, and Lakers never said nothing about it. Maybe there's some infighting with him and Kobe, but, we knew how to handle that sort of situation. Kev, you can come to LA and just be you. As long as you show up on the basketball court, you're knocking down the shots that you want to do, doing the stuff that you want to do. And Kev, I'm going to be very honest. I think it's a really good fit because you just want to hoop. You love the game. And I'll take it one step further. You know all that leadership stuff that everybody's getting mad at you about? Oh, Kev's not a leader. Kev's not doing this. Look, man, we got 2 other guys. They can go be the leaders. Just go do your thing. Just make your shots, do what you want to do, live the lifestyle that you want. And I'll make it even sweeter for you. In 2028, Los Angeles is hosting the Olympics. And there is probably no athlete that is more decorated in basketball in the Olympics than you. Hey, man, we all saw the Netflix documentary. We saw the emotions about what basketball does for you. We saw how you were talking about the French team and all that sort of stuff and how much that stuff means to you. Who better? And look, LeBron might be here with you. He might not be here, but who better to be the ambassador for LA Olympics, to carry the torch and be that guy? And look, 2028, you might have to hand it off to your boy, Jason Tatum, and you might let him be the guy who starts. But for the most part, who's a better ambassador than Kevin Durant in LA in 2028? I think if you really want to leave Phoenix and you had to shortlist that list, I think the Lakers should probably move up to the top of that list, considering all the things that would make your basketball and personal and future life interesting. What do you think about that pitch?
Did he just say Tatum to the Lakers? Did he just say that on accident?
He's thinking way ahead. He's like 5 steps ahead. Like he's got KD's next teammate already lined up.
We're 3 superstars down the line. He's already traded Austin Reaves away to get Tatum. Look, I would say, here's what I would say to that great pitch. If I was close to Kevin and talked about these things with Kevin and offered my advice and expertise, I would say, Kay, you got to go to the contender. They already did all they can do to you in 2016. So pick the best team. Pick the best team for the future. Pick the best situation for life, all of that. I wouldn't care if Kevin joined the actual Olympic team. Like, join them. It's fine.
Yeah.
But I would say go somewhere where you get to play your game, which means you'll get to isolate, you'll get your possessions, you'll have spacing. Go somewhere where you get to play the type of defense you like. So you have some athletes on the floor, some size, you're going to switch a lot. Go somewhere with a coach you trust, with an organization you trust, who takes care of their guys. As grounded as can be, media locale. A big city, because you're a megastar and you need to be somewhere where a big megastar needs to be. Mm-hmm. And play amongst some dudes, man. Play amongst some of your peers who you know that you can hand the baton off to when it's time, who will uplift you when it's time, who will shield you from the drama, who will take care of everything you have going on. And yeah, you can come be a hooper, but you can come be a leader on the right days, and you come do what you do, and you can play meaningful basketball for the rest of your career, KD. And some may say, like they just said in my chat, that sounds like Boston. I'm sorry to this group.
Nah, man, we can't.
But it does sound like Los Angeles, and it is intriguing. And I can't speak for Kevin to know where he wants to go and all of that. But I do wonder, the one kind of like wrench into that, does Kevin want to play with LeBron? Not like that there's beef or that there's an issue, or that they won't mix well on the court. It's just playing with LeBron is a thing Kevin has spoke about before. Being within that ecosystem. I personally don't think it would be a problem for Kevin. I just think that's the type of stuff you have to weigh when you're that level of player. Luka is younger in a whole nother generation than him and all this great stuff. And I think he slots in fine. But you're Kevin and you're joining LeBron's team. There's like something to that. But yeah, like I said, man, when you add up all the situation, I mean, me, myself personally, if I got my vote, Lakers would be a very, very close second, because I would love to watch Kevin and LeBron play together. But it's gonna be an interesting summer for Kev. I think, hopefully he didn't just play his last game in the Suns jersey today with the ankle injury, but I mean his last turn on the same ankle was about 3.5 weeks. I know they sent X-rays are negative. We'll do MRI tomorrow, and we'll see. But it's there is a reality where he just played his last game as a Sun, and that'd be a tough way to end it. But I do think the reality is, they're gonna have to weigh everything this summer, and I think the Lakers will have a decent pitch. The problem is, and you mentioned it right at the very beginning. At this point, it might cost you Austin Reaves, and so I'm guessing that's where Roz is going to resend.
That's part of.
So I want to hear that.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna separate this as a basketball fan and as a Laker fan, because I think that two separate things. Just as a person who grew up watching Kevin Durant and who's gonna explain to the younger generation, like I'm sad that Kevin Durant, like to your point, Eddie, I hope he goes to a team where he can really like not lead them to a championship. Obviously, like I think that narrative gets kind of pushed too far, but I don't really like that he's become a hired gun, basically, right? Like in terms of in Phoenix, it's just, all right, he's a hired gun to take us to the next level. And once that like relationship dissipated, it feels like they try to trade him. And I just would love for him to be on a team where he can hoop and win and play next to, like, I think Dallas and Houston make a lot of sense for him. Again, I think he would fit beautifully here next to Luka and LeBron. I have no questions about the basketball fit. My only, and I've relayed this to Vinay many times.
Yeah.
KD turns 37 in September. LeBron's going to be 41 going to the season next year. And those are two guys that I just don't want to have the basketball ass that they will if you build around a team that has three players that make $50 million. I was higher on the Suns, man, like coming into this season. I just thought not Beal, Booker and KD gives you an offensive floor. I thought that would put them a little bit higher in the Western Conference than it's worked out to. Obviously, other issues have gone on in Phoenix that I'm not privy to either, so I'm not sure exactly what went wrong, but I'm sure there's stuff inside that's just not working for them. But that's my own thing. And like again, as a guy who just loved Kevin Durant's game, I would like him to be a place that, because obviously the Warriors situation, what it was, the Nets situation, I thought was the perfect kind of blend. They just all got hurt. And then obviously this Phoenix situation that's gone too, where Booker should have been one of those guys, right? You mentioned go play with some guys. Booker was a guy. They just went to the finals a year before or whatever. Then Kevin got there, brought him in, and I thought they had a solid team before they, kind of started to mess with things and got new ownership syndrome put into their, organization. But yeah, again, it's not like if Kevin Durant comes here, I'm gonna be upset. Like we get freaking Kevin Durant, right? Yeah. Vinay said it should cost you Austin Reaves. Again, I'm not going to play GM. I'm not sure the Suns can ask for Austin Reaves. I'm not sure what their leverage in this situation is either. So, so I don't know how that would work. But again, that's the whole reason we went through the Luka trade. That's the whole reason I didn't believe the Luka trade, because I just assumed you have to get Austin Reaves in that deal. There's just no way that you're getting Luka Doncic without Austin Reaves going the other way. And that's the whole reason I didn't even look at the trade after that. And it eventually wasn't the case. But of course, Phoenix, as any good GM would ask for Austin Reaves in that deal.
You got to.
And
that was the hiccup I think with just in general, and Kevin spoke to it. It costs a lot to get me, and I think he means in a obviously in a theoretical sense, but also look, there's $54 million salary. Like you're gonna have to this many guys, and it's a different 54 million. Like to get Jimmy Butler, it costs less, and it was almost the same salary than it cost to get Kevin. They didn't have to give up Kuminga. They didn't have to cut their depth in the way that they would have in order to get Kevin. And I think that's what you're looking at with the Lakers. And that's kind of the other. I think that's going to be key. Like when it comes time and they want to know where Kevin wants to go and what he's thinking, that's going to be a huge part of it. What are these deals looking like? Because who is it going to cost to get me? If I was Kevin's agent, the ideal road, I would have him play out his contract, and then in the next summer, he can walk to somewhere and he can, he can make a deal with somebody and take a little bit less money, and not to chart out LeBron's career 2 years in advance, because who knows?
Yeah.
But I wonder if LeBron enters that space where he's like, okay, instead of 60, I'll take 40, but like we need 20 million of good player on top of that, and the reports are he was going to do that for Clay and then a couple other guys that they could get them. So I don't think that's that's impossible. And I think it's the same for Kevin. Like, okay, I'll take this much, but like, what does our team look like that I'm doing that for? And I think that's going to be a huge part of it too. So it'd be interesting to see. I mean, I don't know what he's going to do with his extension. I think the smart play would be to not sign an extension anywhere and to kind of maintain that leverage and flexibility. And obviously you're banking on your health, which is scary. After we just seen Kyrie, we've seen Kevin tonight. But I think it's a safe enough bet that I would suggest doing that. And really it's that summer where he gets to choose and kind of hitch onto a wagon and be a big part of that. And who knows where the Lakers stand at that point? If we want to end on a high note, who knows how the Lakers are looking? I mean, Kevin and LeBron could sit down in Calabasas next summer and say, all right, they got 80, let's split it, instead of just like I'm gonna get 60 and get the whatever. And then who knows? Maybe we are watching all three of them dudes play with Austin Reaves and seeing what that looks like. But look, I wouldn't hate it, man. I wouldn't hate it. I would. That would be a ton of fun for me. So
this is the most Laker conversation ever. Where we got Luka Doncic 2 months ago, and now we're just Kevin Durant next. It's not enough.
I would never put it past the Lakers to acquire us. I've lived long enough and watched. They were doing this before I was born. They're gonna be doing this after I'm done, and then they just keep doing it. So I'll never put it past them. Look, all them Photoshops is funny until some of them dudes is actually wearing a jersey. It's like
till it's not Photoshop anymore. Yeah,
until it's not Photoshop. So,
well, Eddie, I appreciate Raj and I sincerely, humbly appreciate you joining the pod, joining the live stream, having the conversation with us about Lakers basketball and fixing a big three, integrating a big three, what that's supposed to look like. And all the different stuff that we talked about, the Lakers stuff. And I definitely appreciate you taking the elevator pitch for why maybe Kev should consider LA and not Boston. Because our philosophy, right, as Laker fans, is the same thing every year. Whenever somebody's like, well, if the Lakers don't win a championship, who do you want, to win the championship? And the answer is always anybody but Boston. And so that's my pitch to you. Just go anywhere but Boston. I think that's a fair way.
I'll relay the info, man. I'll see what I can do.
But as always, folks, we appreciate all the folks that were able to join the live stream. Whether you joined it at the start or you joined midway through, you can always head to the Lakers Detailed YouTube and you can replay it back. I'll get this uploaded on Apple and Spotify. We want to thank our special guest, Eddie Gonzalez of No Narratives Playback. If you guys are on playback and you guys watch Suns games, or you're into just basketball in general, if you're into WWE, Eddie does streams during the day. He does streams in the evening. He watches games. It's a great chat. It's a great group of folks that are in there. It's a lot of fun. So please head over to Playback and make sure you subscribe to his Playback room there and support him on that front. You can also find him as Bansky. You can find him on X too as well. And you can go bother him there too as well, because a lot of people seem to do that quite a bit. I didn't even get to the actual part that was going to do. So we'll leave it for another time, but there's some hip hop healing that could happen if Katie decided to come to LA too as well. Folks who know, it is what it is, but we'll discuss that for another time, because I could go on for like a whole other hour.
Days, man.
Yeah. But we appreciate all the folks that were able to join. Make sure you follow Eddie. Make sure you follow No Narratives on Playback. If you get a chance, if you're on X or if you're on YouTube, hit the like and subscribe button. That we appreciate that. That goes a long way. And wherever you are, we appreciate you. We hope you have a wonderful day. And if nothing else, we'll catch you in the next one. Take it easy.
Peace.